Rastogi. Welcome once again to this episode of Nai Dunia. We have talked on very important subjects on progressive revelation, on the concept of happiness, on the concept of manifestations of God. Now, I think one of the most important issues facing humanity today is religion. The whole world is in a turmoil. There are wars being fought in the name of religion. There is so much fanaticism. People want to become separate because they belong to a particular religion, and others are vehemently trying to promote their own faith at the cost of others. So much of bloodshed has been there in the history as well in the name of religion. There is so much hatred being spread in the world in the name of religion. In the 21st century, you see people being killed on television, burnt alive, or shot dead, or even dragged, tied to a moving vehicle. It's height of cruelty. And in many religions, the position of women is a big question. Women not allowed to go to temples, and women not given equal rights. Women asked to remain behind a veil. So many people seriously are questioning, do we need religion at all? And especially the young people, they're completely disoriented with the whole idea of religion. So I think that this is a very valid topic for this short discussion of 20 minutes or so. And I would invite you to begin the discussion. I think the topic that we have taken up is why religion, and maybe then we will go on to define what is religion and what kind of religion is needed in the modern world.
You put forward a question which is actually many questions put together. And it would really take a long time to answer all of them. But let's stick to certain basic facts. The first basic fact is that man is a spiritual being. He may not realize it, but it is a fact. So let's first prove that fact to man, that he is actually more than just a material collection of neurons or whatever.
I think to some extent there is evidence for this, because a large country like Russia went without religion, and they thought if the basic requirements of food, housing, clothing, shelter are met and equally distributed, people would be happy. But after 70 years of doing this, they realized that something more is needed. And we are not discounting that experiment. That's a very valuable experiment, and there are a lot of insights into society and life and living from what happened there. But at the same time, this realization after such a long period of time living perhaps without God has brought them back to God. And as I have visited Russia a few times, and I have talked to the young people there, they have gone back to God. In fact, one of the most prominent buildings that have been built near Kremlin and the Red Square is a huge church, a very modern church, which was supposed to be a kind of monument to Stalin, who has become a symbol of violence and torture and killing. So they did away with that, and instead they built a church there. And that is very surprising that people, hundreds of thousands for so many years, going by the principles of equity and justice as far as food, shelter and clothing are concerned, finally realize they are not merely body, and there is something more to man, and they build a church to worship God.
See, that is the basic thing that man has to first realize. Because without that understanding, then there is no concept of religion either. Because if you are not spiritual, then you have no link with God. And if you don't believe in God, then where is religion anyway? So that's why I would say that the first thing to start with is to prove to man that he is a spiritual being. And there are many, many proofs for that. I like one particular proof, and so I'm going to share that with you. And that is that our mind thinks in limited ways. For example, in the material world, a square is a square. If you try to make it a circle, you no longer have the square.
True.
So if our mind was a material mind, could it possibly think of a circle, a square, a triangle, a rectangle, all at the same time? No. Because it would first have to think of the square and then convert it to a circle, convert it to a rectangle, convert it to a triangle. But it couldn't think of all of them or do multiple tasks at the same time. Now, this is a non-material, very simple way of saying that there is something more than material to man.
Mm-hmm.
So once we come to this basic understanding, we can proceed to the next step of God. And of course, if we try to prove God, it becomes very, very prolonged. But again, here we will take a very simple fact that this entire universe, with all its perfections, could not possibly have just come together on its own.
There is a creator.
So there is a creator.
So basically we are talking about a creator, and whatever name that
we give to it is...
in any language you would give would differ. Maybe somebody would call it Allah, somebody would say God, somebody would say Paramatma or Ishwar or Brahm, or somebody would say Jehovah. It would depend upon the language and the times in which that concept came through.
So then the next thing that we come to is the prophets of God. See, I'm just very briefly touching on each aspect and putting forward its rationality.
So what we are saying is that
because now we've come to the fact that the prophets of God, though they came years, centuries apart in different lands, all of them brought essentially the same message from its spiritual point of view.
Well, we have to discuss that at length, but in short, what we are saying is that there is a creator and this universe is a creation, and therefore the person or the being that created this universe wants us to progress and be happy and sends his message from time to time. And some people call them manifestations of God, some people call them prophets. Avatars, we don't dispute the name or the term, but they bring divine messages for humanity to live happily and to live in a united way and to go ahead and progress and achieve their true destiny. Now the issue there is that when you say all of them were sent by the same divine power with the same mission, we don't see that in the world today. We see a lot of war and fighting and hatred creating in the names of various founders of religion and various religions.
That is because we have failed to understand a very basic natural law. And the natural law is that of a cycle. That everything on this material world has a cycle. It has a beginning, a glorious period, and then a gradual decline. And that is the reason why the next messenger is required. So that this cycle is then renewed, and each cycle is progressively taking man to a higher and higher and higher level. Now this is the theme of things, which if we step back a little from our own identities, we would be able to perceive. And we have the literature, the history, the technology, everything available to make it possible for us to understand.
In
that.
fact, God or Creator, as we said, Srishtikarta, has never left man alone, and he has been with us in the form of a manifestation of God from the very beginning, whether we call him Adam or Manu or
True.
Noah or whatever.
But
name.
now we come to another
And
very fundamental
that
point.
person who came, that divine being who appeared amongst us in a human form, said that the revelation would be renewed.
Correct.
And as the time passed, the revelations did come.
So now we come to another very fundamental aspect. Every single messenger of God is the one who is credited to have started a religion. This religion became the basis of a civilization, and this civilization gradually declined and was then replaced by another messenger and another civilization. Now we have to also understand that when the messenger of God came, he was the absolute authority for his time. So you have all the messengers of God very clearly saying, I am the way, and no man cometh unto the Father except through me. I am the prophet of God, and this is the only way. Give up all your religions and come to me, I will guide you to the truth.
That's what Lord Krishna said to Arjuna.
Right. So every single messenger of God made this clear statement, and the believers over a period of time have come to depend on that statement that, oh, this is the only way, there is no other way.
The second part is forgotten, where they
Yes.
said they would come again.
Correct.
They
So-
would come again mean the same spirit would appear in a different time, a human being who would look different, speak another language, and be in tune with the times, and the message would be then explained in the terms of that age and
So-
the needs of the age.
So now we have a situation in religion where all the religions of the past have suddenly been put together, all of them thinking that theirs is the only way to truth. Obviously they're going to clash, and why talk about different religions? Even in the same religion, people were not able to come to an understanding that they should be united.
There were so many sects and practices in
Correct.
all the religions
In
of
all the
the
religions.
world.
Now that is actually a decline of their religion. And if you note, in the last 400 years, 500 years, all these sects, all these religions, no matter where they were, realized this fact that our religion is slowly losing ground. And they have all tried to revive it. And they've all
Interpret and reinterpret and try to make it relevant to some extent.
true, but all of them have gone back to only one basic fact, and that is worship of God or bhakti.
I think there are some basic teachings which don't change. For instance, that human beings in essence are a soul which is indestructible, which cannot be destroyed, which cannot be burned, which cannot be drowned, which is eternal. And also the realization that there is a supreme power whom we call by different names, as we said. So these two principles, of course, are there in all the religions, and that we have to relate to that supreme power through the manifestation of God and follow them when they appear. So
now
these are the fundamental truths, the basic truths in which no religion differs. That there is God, that there is, in English we are saying there is God, and there is the manifestation, the message of God comes for every age, and then we are supposed to follow that message. But what you are saying is now, which is very relevant, that every people thought that their message is the end of everything, and after that nothing more is needed. And in the globalized world now, when we have so many when we have come very closer, distance has lost meaning, then there is this conflict. People think theirs is the only one, there is the best, and so they are trying to promote it in that sense, not realizing that all the messengers of God, whether it is Krishna, Buddha, Zoroaster, Lord Christ, Muhammad, the Bab or Baha'u'llah, they have the same station, and they preach the same teachings, only social teachings differ.
That is one aspect only. The next aspect to this is that all of them tried to revive themselves on their own, and they chose the path of worship because that's the easiest. And they were not able to understand that religion is not only worship. Religion is much more than that. Now this point is very nicely brought out with a small story from the Bhagavad Puran, where Narad Muni, the messenger of the gods, is taking a walk along the Ganges, and he sees in front of him a very beautiful lady who's trying to revive two very old, debilitated men. And being very curious, he goes to ask, and she says, I am bhakti or worship. And the people of the world in these last 400-500 years have revived because they have taken to worship. But they have not been able to revive my two sons, who is knowledge and detachment. So true knowledge and true detachment, which are again parts of religion, were lost, could not be revived by the people. And so those two sons of bhakti or worship continue to remain very old. So Bhakti asks Narad Muni, please, you are such a learned person, tell me how to revive my sons. And Narad Muni goes around the whole universe looking for an answer.
One is knowledge and one is
Detachment.
These are the sons of
Worship.
Bhakti.
Of Bhakti. So finally he meets the sons of Lord Brahma, who give him his answer. And his answer is, go read the Srimad Bhagavad Puran to them. Now what is the Srimad Bhagavad Puran? It is the life of the manifestations, one after the other. In other words, the message is very simple and clear, that unless man goes back to the manifestation of God, to the source of all learning, to the source of all worship, to his creator, he will not have true knowledge, he will not have true detachment. And it is very interesting that the Bab, the forerunner of the Baha'i faith, very clearly in one line negates this whole concept. In his address to the Letters of the Living, the first 18 believers who believed in him, he says the days when idle, I-D-L-E, lazy
Idol
worship were deemed sufficient are now ended. So now it's no longer that I will worship God and I will be saved.
You have to have true knowledge, and then based on that true action. Only then the situation of the world can be redeemed, and that is found in the teachings of the manifestation of God. And we said all of them come from the same source, so we will have to respect all of them. We will have to seek the good things from all the faiths, all the religions, and we have to work for the recognition of all the manifestations of God amongst people of the world, whether they belong to A or B or C religion. But once they understand that all the manifestations of God have brought the same message for the welfare of humanity, for the progress of mankind, but their social teachings would differ, and they are only there for that age in which they appeared, and after some time those social teachings would be renewed. So the manifestation would repeat itself for two reasons. One is the renewal of the basic teachings that have been forgotten, as you said, true knowledge. that has been lost over the period of time, and then the relevant social teachings that would be relevant for that age. So every 1,000 years or so, we see in humanity a great messenger, a manifestation of an avatar appears, and as you say, they found divine civilizations. But they also say that you have to still go further, and you have to, all of them basically came for unity.
Correct.
And love.
So therefore, now religion, as we are beginning to see, has got certain clear-cut functions. The first, as the guardian Shoghi Effendi put it, he says, is to create that mystic feeling which unites man with God.
That is the essence of faith.
That is the essence of all and the purpose of all the messengers of God who came, was to create that mystic feeling that unites man with God. The next aspect is a statement taken from Baha'u'llah, where he says that man is a mine rich in precious gems. And the purpose of religion is to lay bare those gems for the whole of mankind. In other words, that every bit of character, every bit of virtue, everything that we know as good comes from the teachings of the manifestation of God. And He releases that potential in man to be good, to acquire that virtue.
That is the spirit of faith.
Correct.
That gives you new life.
That gives you a new life.
New birth that is being talked about in some scriptures.
So now when you have a new man, you come to the third aspect of religion, which is to carry forward an ever-advancing civilization. Because unless you have a man of that caliber, your civilization will never have that caliber.
That's renewal of civilizations.
So you get a continuity. And we have to remember that this is cyclical.
So it should not be, the religion should not turn into conflict of civilizations.
Correct.
But it should lead to the unity of the people. And another thing, I think religion creates order in the world. It is the greatest source of order in the world.
Yes.
And what we see is complete chaos and anarchy in the name of religion. I think, as you said, we have to self-reflect and see whether we are promoting the true essence of religion, and whether we are detached, and whether we are oriented to the service of humanity. We have love for God and therefore love for His people, or we are just, carrying a flag without much
And when we talk about this detachment, then let us look at what exactly is religion. If you take dharam, dha is the Sanskrit dhatu or origin, which means worthy. So that which is worthy. And ram means to become one with, to the point that it is internal within you. So dharam
internalized.
So dharam becomes to become one with that which is worthy. Now the moment we as individuals realize that, then there is no such thing as my dharam, because dharam is not mine. I am becoming one with something.
That higher value. I think one of the purposes
So
of
we go
religion
to a higher level.
is, as you said, one is to produce an ever advancing civilization. So that is the true purpose of religion.
Correct.
To produce an ever advancing civilization, not to destroy the whole world because of this misunderstanding or petty differences, the social aspects. It is to produce an ever advancing civilization. And the other one is to acquire virtues, as you are talking about detachment and knowledge and self-reliance. So many virtues, 52 virtues at least have been identified in the world. And they are being taught at a huge level in many schools and universities, and further research is, that is the meaning of being spiritual, to have virtues, divine qualities or spiritual qualities. And if we don't have that, I don't think we can call ourselves a religious person.
You cannot call yourself a human being. Because by definition, a human being is not just this body, but is something beyond this body also.
In that sense, we can fall below the level of animals.
Correct.
And I think many times it is said that animals only kill when they need food, that is the natural aspect of it. But we keep on killing each other for nothing, for a piece of dust, So religion doesn't teach that actually.
No, it doesn't. In fact, re means again and ligos means to bind. This is the Latin origin of the word. Now, obviously, if you're going to be bound, it's going to be by something that is worthy to be bound by. And it is going to be again and again. It's not something that happens just once.
So the idea is to look for the latest manifestation of God, which is, prophesied in all the scriptures. And we Baha'is, for instance, believe it is Baha'u'llah who is glory of God for this age. And then investigate their teachings, and then, as you said, internalize them and live the life according to divine standards, not man-made standards, not because somebody is saying this is the way we promote our religion or protect our religion or do these acts of violence. But in fact, I think a true religious man would offer up his life in the name of religion, not take anyone's life.
Very true.
So I think, Dr. Rastogi, this is a very nice understanding. We have, as you said, it's a very vast subject. We have tried to understand the importance of religion and how it can lead to unity and peace in the world, to the creation of a new civilization, to order and the evolution of humanity to a new stage of development. Thank you very much once again, and we will continue these discussions in the next episode of Ney Duniya.